Hello, everyone. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Maria Zamora to the show. Maria is the president and the uh, CEO of the Center for Elders Independence, which is based in the East Bay of the Bay Area of California. Welcome to the show, Maria.
Thank you so much for having me today.
The reason I wanted to speak with you, um, Maria, was to learn more about your agency and what it is and what it does, and to talk specifically about a program called PACE, which I think is so relevant for accessible housing. So let's start with CEI. Tell me a little bit about it.
Absolutely, I'm happy to do so. So CEI, or the Center for Elders Independence, as you mentioned, we're headquartered in Oakland, California, and we serve the East Bay. We are celebrating our 40th anniversary this
Oh,
year.
congratulations.
Thank you. Serving seniors in the East Bay. We're very proud of that. We are very locally rooted in this area. We are, as you mentioned, a PACE provider organization, and that PACE stands for the Programs of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. And we've been a certified PACE operator for 30 years now, 30 of those 40 years. So we have a long history here. We have 5 PACE centers scattered throughout the East Bay, and we serve, 2 different counties here in this area. We also run a Medi-Cal waiver program for some other home and community-based services. But PACE is really our core organizational, what we do as an organization.
Right. And I understand that PACE is not just something that your agency does, but that it's offered elsewhere in the country too, right?
Absolutely. PACE originated right here in the Bay Area in San Francisco.
Really?
It did
Wow.
50 years ago, an organization that still operates today on lock. They are the founder of PACE, and it eventually became a federally designated provider status. And there are PACE organizations up and down the state of California. California, we're very fortunate. We have a very pro-PACE and PACE supportive state Medicaid agency, which is key to running PACE. It's a partnership between the PACE organization and the state's Medicaid department and CMS, the Medicare and federal agency. But there are PACE organizations throughout the country. Unfortunately, there is not PACE in every state, but we are working on that. And there are a couple of new states coming online this in the next few years, which is really exciting.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah,
So this is so tell let's just sort of define what do we mean when we say PACE? What are we talking about? What is the program?
absolutely. So PACE is a very comprehensive, holistic approach to caring for very vulnerable, medically complex seniors. And so when you join a PACE organization, you become part of a care team. You have a whole care team wrapped around you. We call it the interdisciplinary team. And so through each PACE center, you access your medical care, rehab services, so physical and occupational therapy, speech therapy. We have master level social workers that case manage and support all of our participants. We have registered dietitians for nutritional support. We have wonderful activities, therapeutic and recreational activities and socialization in our centers. We also provide home care and home health services and transportation, which is such a key part of healthcare. We transport our participants to and from our centers, but also to those critical outside specialty appointments. So, and we coordinate all this care. We provide medications, and any equipment that the participant may need to be more independent in their home.
So
So,
they are not living in a new housing. They're staying where they have been
they are
living. There's no
staying,
need for them to move.
and that really is the beauty and the vision of PACE, is to allow seniors to remain in their homes and communities with our supportive services.
So I know a lot of folks who are seniors or disabled who are require support in their home. They require either a care provider who comes to the house for 8 or 12 hours a day, or they have a live-in or someone or some sort of rotation where someone comes to the house every day. How does that work with PACE?
Well, we also, as I mentioned, we do have a home care component, so we may send a caregiver out into the home. But what's really beautiful, and I think such a critical aspect of the PACE model, is the socialization. We
Yeah.
all know how devastating the impacts of isolation can be to our elders, to anyone really. We all learned that over the last few years, didn't we? That just the importance of human connection. And at
Yeah.
our PACE centers, we bring some of our participants into the center so they have that care and companionship and within the center. So it's not just about providing someone in the home. It's a beautiful combination of what works best for them.
So tell me a little bit more. When you say centers, do you mean you have multiple locations where people can socialize in your service area?
Absolutely. When you come into a PACE center, within this one building, there is a primary care clinic, so the physician and the nurses are there. There is a rehab gym space, so those physical and occupational therapists are there. There is our day center where we provide meals, nutritious meals, and socialization and activities, a lot of entertainment. Just they're really a lot of fun. They're very lively places. Um, we have a computer lab in our centers, so everything that the participants need, it's kind of a one-stop shop, if you will.
Oh, so would this be the kind of thing that the client would be going to each and every day? They'd come in the morning, leave in the evening as a full everyday thing, or would it be something they would use on a more ad hoc basis,
It
the
really
center?
it really depends on the person. We call the individuals we serve participants because they do participate in their care. Depends on their goals of care and their needs. So
Yeah,
that care team that I mentioned earlier, there are 8 distinct disciplines that conduct an assessment when the person joins our program. And those assessments and the individual's goals of care inform their care plan. So it
I
is a
see.
very individualized program. Somebody may need to come 5 days a week. Somebody may just come 1 or 2 days a week. So
Right.
it really is dependent on what matters to that individual.
Do you have clients who have physical and cognitive challenges as
Oh,
well? Or I'm
absolutely.
sorry, participants. Do you have
That's
participants?
fine. Thank you for catching that so quickly. Absolutely. In order to join a PACE program, you are assessed by that state. There's a eligibility nurse at the state that assesses whether you meet PACE level of care. So what that means is that you're assessed by that nurse to meet nursing home level of care. So these are individuals that have, many, cognitive functional needs that are met.
So this is not like something that would be available to every senior. They have to sort of qualify to be able to participate, right?
They do. I am confident, and I think anyone that works in with this model would say that it is the right model of care for any senior. It would be wonderful if everyone could access healthcare in this way because it is so well coordinated and so holistic. But right now, there is eligibility criteria to join a PACE organization.
And is it income based or is it the nature of their ability to manage their life pay based? How?
They the majority of those we serve are what are known as the dual eligibles, Medicare and Medicaid, but we also serve Medicare only individuals. So we do tend to serve lower income population.
I see. If someone had the need for the program and it would really serve them, but they did not qualify as a medical or Medicare or Medicaid or Medi-Cal eligible, could they pay privately?
They could, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are some parameters from our regulators around how that looks and what we charge. It's like a premium essentially that you would pay, but there is that option, absolutely.
Percentage in your service area, what percentages of seniors who would be financially eligible, being dual Medi-Cal and Medicare, having the medical qualification, having the standing to qualify, what percentage of them are taking advantage of PACE and as opposed to those that aren't able to use it for whatever reason?
I don't know if I can answer the question in the way you've posed it. What I can say is in our current service area where CEI serves, our market penetration, if you will, the number of individuals that we serve compared to the total market of potentially PACE eligible ranges from about 10 to 14%. So there are a
And
number of individuals who we could serve and have the capacity to serve at CEI.
right. And is that the same as what you observe? I know you have a little bit of a national perspective. Do PACE organizations around the country all sort of see that same kind of market penetration?
For the most part, I mean, from the perspective of the National PACE Association, if you're in the 10 to 15% range, you're doing well for a PACE organization. I will say, however, that we are really thinking about how we look at that because this is such a proven model, and it achieves really high quality outcomes for the individuals that are served by PACE organizations that a lot of effort is ongoing to raise awareness around PACE so that we can make more. And that's really what it's a function of. The lower market percentage is just a function of awareness.
So
So
people just don't know they could be access to. So
they don't,
where is the disconnect? Is it in why are people not hearing about this if that's what the main issue is?
there's a number of reasons. Many PACE organizations nationally are smaller PACE organizations. They may have be a
Oh,
program.
capacity.
It's capacity. No, it's not capacity.
Oh,
They may not have large funds to invest in advertising and awareness and
marketing.
branding and marketing. So it's very grassroots marketing.
Right.
Another thing that's challenging for us is we're very heavily regulated, and there are stringent requirements from CMS around how you can market a PACE.
CMS, the Centers for
Centers
Medicaid
for
and
Medicare, yes,
Medicaid
absolutely.
in
So
Washington.
yes.
Yeah.
So we have marketing guidelines that are imposed upon us. And so there's some barriers and guardrails around how you market this program, including if you're a new organization, you cannot begin to market it until you're approved, and you're approved when you can open. So you can't start marketing until you are already open for business.
You have a center where people can come
Yes.
and get these services. So is there a disconnect with the medical professionals who might be seeing people who've had an acute incident? Maybe they're in rehab, maybe they're going to be discharged from the hospital, and those people are simply not aware of this?
Many of them are not aware. Many providers, particularly geriatricians, when they hear about this model, they really see the value, and would love that for their patients. What can also be challenging is when an individual becomes a PACE participant, we are their primary care provider.
Oh, so if they've been with another big HMO, they have to switch,
Yes,
meaning new doctors.
meaning new doctors.
Oh, I
So
see.
that can be a bit of a barrier for enrollment as well.
Yeah. Um, when people take advantage of the program, and they come to your center, do you have a way of measuring how they are impacted by their visits, especially the well-being sense of it? Do you have a way of measuring how your participants are gaining value in their life as a result of being in your system in PACE?
We have multiple ways of measuring. Again, because of the structure and the regulatory oversight of our program, there are a lot of things that we monitor on an ongoing basis. Every PACE organization has a quality improvement plan in place with very distinct goals for that year, and with metrics attached to those goals. There are also utilization and quality measures that we report to our regulators on a regular basis, so that we can really see how are we doing as an organization in terms of reducing hospitalizations and ER visits, and those areas which are most impactful to an elder. Our fall rate is something that we look at very closely. And so there's a number of ways that we do this. We have satisfaction is also very important to us. So we do a participant satisfaction survey. And it's based on all of the various domains or elements of the PACE program, the PACE model. So we're able to gauge how are we doing in each of those domains, and are our participants satisfied with our services?
And what is the latest result on that? What are people saying in those surveys?
Overall, PACE does very well on those surveys. Whether you look at an individual organization like mine, or if you look at, if you're in California, we have State Trade Association, CalPACE, which is very active. And then there's the National PACE Association. And, a couple of critical measures that people are very familiar with in the healthcare world, willingness to recommend, is, they're in the high 90s typically.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, as this is a housing podcast, I want to talk a little bit about housing. One of the things that we talk about on this show from time to time, me and my guests, is aging in place.
Mhm.
It would seem to me that the PACE model is really encouraging that, giving people with medical needs the ability to stay at home. And I have two questions. First of all, does PACE provide or enable these folks to modify their homes to suit their physical and cognitive needs as they age? In terms of physical things like ramps and lifts and grab bars, but also other things like help with making sure that a respirator machine or other medical devices that are now going to be in the home so they don't have to be institutionalized are able to be in the home without creating a fall hazard or a trip hazard. Um, eh, how does the program interact with the housing situation your participants are coming to you with?
That's an excellent question. So one of the important things about assessing an individual for PACE is we have to ensure that they are safe to live in the community. And part of the work that we do is a home safety evaluation. So it may be something like installing a ramp or a grab bar. It might be that we need to go and do an intensive cleanup because we may have someone that's in a hoarding situation, and we
Yeah,
don't judge that, but we want to make sure they can move around safely in that environment. So
yeah,
it could be, one of the really beautiful things about PACE is, unlike a traditional, HMO or Medicare Advantage plan, we have a lot of flexibility around what we can cover. If there is something that might even be somewhat unusual that a PACE participant, that their interdisciplinary team or IDT has determined they need, we can make that happen for them at no cost to them. We will cover that. So it's really, again, what does the individual need? Looking at the whole person, looking at their home environment, and how can we keep them as safe as possible?
it sounds wonderful. So, if I understand you correctly, if a PACE participant is determined that they need a just something simple, say a grab bar in their bathroom, their interdisciplinary team would assess the home, say they needed that, and get it installed on their behalf without any cost to the participant.
That's correct.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Um, how do you how does the program interact with family and care providers who may already have had relationships with the participant before they became eligible for PACE?
Well, the families are such a critical part of the model as well. I mean, this really, when we say team-based care, we don't just mean that IDT, we mean that the participant's a part of the team, the family's a part of the team. And the burden on family caregivers is great.
Yes,
Oftentimes they
absolutely.
can have
I
significant.
did a I interviewed someone for my podcast about a month or so ago who has workshops and events for family caregivers so that they can be taken care of as well because their burden is so great for caring for their loved ones.
Absolutely. Sometimes there's significant health decline in the caregiver because they
Yes.
are so consumed with ensuring that the individual, their loved one is cared for, they fail to care for themselves.
Yes,
So,
it's a big problem.
so I mean, PACE can also help support them in this journey because now they're not alone. Now they're not having to coordinate all the doctor's appointments and make sure their loved one gets there. And check all the calendars and go pick up medications. And so it really is a bit of a respite to family caregivers as well. But they are an important part of the team, and we certainly want to hear from them and their voice, and their concerns and their goals for their loved one are an important part of this puzzle.
Do you think that PACE and other programs like it have helped to reduce institutionalization and the burden on nursing homes?
Absolutely, 100%. So for most PACE organizations, I think nationally, only about maybe 5% of PACE enrollees are in a skilled nursing facility. I think for us, it's about 3%. And that really means that they've probably been with us for some time, and they just have gotten to a point where they really are safer. They remain on our program. We cover that nursing home stay as part of the benefit, but really that's a pretty low percentage, particularly
Yeah.
when you think about all of these people were assessed as nursing home level of care to join the program.
So, because of a program like PACE, people don't have to live in skilled nursing facilities long term or other long term type environments that aren't safe or that are institutional. They can stay in their homes, and they have the opportunity to have support not just for their medical needs, but as you said, for their socialization needs. It sounds idyllic, but I'm sure that you encounter challenges and issues in making it be the best thing it could possibly be. And I was hoping you could share with some of my listeners some of the things that are challenging about the work you're doing.
Well, to your point, there's challenges in every industry, every type of care model. Um, Sometimes our regulations can be a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
There were some lovely flexibilities that were granted to us during the public health emergency that
COVID, yeah.
are expiring now, that really allowed us to have even a broader and deeper reach to our participants.
Can you give me an example?
Some telehealth televisits,
Oh,
so we can still use them on a more limited basis, but and when it comes to some of our assessments, or we don't have the flexibility we did during the public health emergency. So again, we can use them to some extent, but not as widely as we were during the PHE. So regulations can be one. What you talked a little bit earlier about, how do you, if you're not a dual eligible, can you pay for this? There's a wide wide number of Medicare only individuals that could benefit from this. But the way that the premium structure is set by our regulators, it makes it a little cost prohibitive for people. So we are working on that. Nationally, there's a bill in place right now that would help to ease some of that burden. But the other challenge that I would be remiss if I didn't note right now is workforce. We are, like
yeah.
all other healthcare entities,
Yeah.
we're struggling to find the people that can serve. And healthcare goes through cycles of, nurses have been a challenge for quite some time, or you might go through a cycle where it's this position or that position. We're in an interesting situation now where it's everything. It's our we call them geriatric aides, but it's our aides in our center, our home care aides, our drivers. So, and then you have all of those licensed, those your physical therapists, or your physicians, or your nurse practitioners. It's just across the board now. And so
Yeah.
we're having to get really creative. And, we're a nonprofit provider of PACE, and we sit in an area where we're competing for talent with some really large health systems.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. We're
Yeah.
always looking for ways that we can enhance our employee experience, so that they can see what a great, there's more to it than just the what's your hourly rate. This is a great place to, it's such a beautiful mission. And it's a Monday through Friday 8 to 5 job. For most, we do have some, we provide call 24 hours, so we always have some team on call. But really, it's a lovely place to really see the impact of your work every day.
Can you give me an example of an experience you've had with a participant that has given you that satisfaction?
Oh gosh, there's so many. It's a little hard to choose. So I want to make a couple global statements and then I'll talk about an example. Being that it's our 40th anniversary year, we've done this series of videos, 40 videos, and we've talked to some staff, but we've talked to a lot of our participants. And one of the things that comes up so frequently is either maintaining or regaining independence. And I bring that up because it ties so nicely in with the work that you're doing. Is some of our participants in these videos have said, many of them, it's kind of a thematic, that they were really isolated in their homes. They had stopped going out, they'd stopped interacting, and were feeling so heavily dependent. And just the act of getting on our van and bringing them to the center, there's this renewed sense of independence because I'm out in the world again and I'm interacting
Right.
with people again. So that's
Right.
something that we hear so commonly. And you really see the transformation in people. They just kind of
Yeah.
start to blossom as they
Yeah.
are no longer isolated and feeling so alone and on their own, particularly those that don't have strong family supports.
Right. Right. It's like, let's treat people like human beings, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So do you think that, well, obviously the PACE model is not for everyone. Certainly it's limited to. So I know that a lot of people listening to this are going to think, wow, this sounds great. How do I get in on that? And I have a lot of listeners in other parts of the country besides California who might want to work with who are involved in accessibility and housing. And we start with the people with disabilities, but many of the folks that the agencies that I know serving people with disabilities, those folks, many of them developmentally disabled, are getting older
Yes.
and need models of care to allow them not to have to go into a new housing scenario. And so um if people are interested in this, they want to learn more from you about it, or want to learn more about whether their family member or their client slash participant could qualify for a local PACE program. What are the very high level kind of minimum requirements? I imagine there's an age requirement. And
Right.
then what do they do then if they feel they meet the minimum high level kind of yes, maybe requirement?
Yes. So there are a set and the fairly universal across all states
Oh,
that
great. So
this.
yeah.
It's at 55 or older.
Mhm.
You must reside in an approved service area of a PACE provider. So there might be a PACE center in your state, but if you live in a zip code that isn't approved for that PACE center, you may not be eligible to.
Penetration rate? What percentage of the United States is covered by a PACE center?
I believe that we are in about 31 states now. And I say I believe because there's new states coming on and they're in various stages
Wonderful.
of development. So we don't have the exact number right
Yeah.
now, but about 31. And I think there's about somewhere between um, 2 and 4 new states coming into the mix, new areas,
Wonderful.
and a couple of states that are expanding after not having done so for a very long time. So we're really excited about
What are
that.
the new states coming on? Do you
So
know them?
Illinois is one that has they
Wow, it's a big state.
put out an RFP for 5 PACE programs. So
Wow.
really exciting. That's one that I think is notable. We're about to see the opening of the very first PACE center in Washington D.C.
Wow.
So there's some exciting movement, and I think that
Yeah.
you know I said one time that COVID was a opportunity that none of us wanted, because what it
Yeah.
did is it really shone a light on the great work of PACE organizations during that time in being able to keep our participants much safer and healthier through a very
Yeah.
difficult time.
So we talked about an age requirement and there being
I'm
existing a PACE
older.
center.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
have to be in this approved service area. They have to meet their state's definition of nursing home level of care. And that can
Ah,
vary a little bit similar, but it can vary a little bit from state to state. Typically here in California, it's kind of a marker is, they're complex medical conditions, but also unmanaged medical conditions, unmanaged chronic, and then they require assistance, somewhere between 2 to 4 activities of daily living.
I
So
see.
again, it varies from state to state. So I don't know each state,
Yeah. No,
but
I understand.
but
And they have to qualify, most everyone has to qualify on an income kind of basis. And
correct.
that would be based on their Medicaid eligibility level, right?
Yes, that's correct. So
I see.
most are dual eligibles, or Medicaid only covered individuals.
Wow. Well, Maria, it sounds like a really good, I hear over and over again on this show, there's no one size fits all solution for all of the housing needs, all of the accessibility needs, but it sounds like a good little niche service that could serve a lot of people as they get older. And I know that people are going to want to get more information. So how do people learn more about PACE and about your agency?
Absolutely. So on a national level, what I would recommend is going to the National PACE Association website, and that is npaonline.org. If they're located in California, there's also the California PACE Association, or CalPACE. And then for my organization, it's pretty easy. We have an easy URL to remember. It's elders.org.
That is easy. That's cool. Terrific. Well, I thank you so much. I wish we had more time. I could ask you dozens more questions, but I really do appreciate your time coming on the show today. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you having me today. Housing is such an important determinant of health, right? Housing and health go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, really. And so it was just such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you.